The Buffalo Soldiers were not just heroes on the frontier, they also stood up against white supremacist terror during Reconstruction. Pretty powerful, right? These forgotten heroes faced battles on two fronts, defending the nation's borders and protecting the very freedoms they had only recently gained. In the aftermath of the Civil War, as America grappled with the challenges of Reconstruction, the Buffalo Soldiers were deployed to the South with a crucial mission. They were there to protect newly freed slaves and uphold emancipation laws. These soldiers stood as a shield between vulnerable black communities and the rising tide of white supremacist violence. But their role went far beyond mere peacekeeping. The Buffalo Soldiers found themselves on the front lines of a domestic war against terror, directly confronting the Ku Klux Klan and other violent racist organizations. They faced off against the infamous Red Shirts and White Leagues, groups dedicated to intimidating and suppressing black citizens exercising their newfound rights. In towns and cities across the South, Buffalo Soldiers stood guard at polling places, ensuring that black voters could cast their ballots without fear of reprisal. They escorted freedmen to courthouses to register for land ownership, a fundamental step towards economic independence. These soldiers became symbols of hope and protection for communities living under the constant threat of racial violence. However, the Buffalo Soldiers' service in this capacity was tragically short-lived. As white backlash against Reconstruction intensified, political support for their mission waned. The federal government, bowing to pressure from southern states and war-weary northerners, began to downsize and reassign these units. The Buffalo Soldiers' success in fighting for black rights made them targets of jealousy and politics. By the late 1870s, most Buffalo Soldier regiments had been relocated to the western frontier, far from the ongoing struggles in the South. This shift not only left vulnerable communities without protection, but also began the process of erasing the soldiers' crucial role in Reconstruction from public memory. The legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers' fight against domestic terrorism was buried under the romanticized myths of the Wild West. Popular culture and history books alike focused on their frontier exploits, ignoring or downplaying their vital work in defending justice and equality on American soil. This selective remembering served to sanitize a complex and often painful chapter of U.S. history. This erasure is part of a broader pattern in U.S. military history, where black heroism is often sidelined or sanitized. From the Revolutionary War to World War II and beyond, the contributions of black soldiers have frequently been overlooked or minimized in official narratives. The story of the Buffalo Soldiers' fight against the KKK is a stark example of how uncomfortable truths about race and patriotism can be systematically excluded from our national story. Honoring the true legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers requires us to confront these uncomfortable truths head-on. It means acknowledging that these men fought not just external enemies, but also the deeply entrenched racism within their own country. Their service challenges us to reconsider what patriotism truly means, especially for those who have been marginalized and oppressed. The erasure of the Buffalo Soldiers' role in combating domestic terrorism also raises important questions about historical memory. How do we decide which stories are told and which are forgotten? Whose experiences are centered in our national narrative and whose are pushed to the margins? Recognizing the full scope of the Buffalo Soldiers' service forces us to grapple with these questions and to consider how our understanding of the past shapes our present and future. Recovering this lost history is not just about setting the record straight, it's about recognizing the ongoing struggle for racial justice in America. The battles fought by the Buffalo Soldiers against white supremacist violence echo through the decades, resonating with contemporary movements for civil rights and equality. Their story reminds us that the fight for freedom and justice is a continuous one, often requiring great courage and sacrifice. The Buffalo Soldiers' confrontations with the KKK and other terrorist organizations also highlight the long history of resistance to racial violence in America. Too often, narratives of this period focus solely on victimization, overlooking the bravery and agency of Black Americans in defending their communities. The Buffalo Soldiers represent a powerful counter-narrative, one of active resistance and determined protection of hard-won rights. Moreover, the story of the Buffalo Soldiers challenges simplistic notions of military service and national loyalty. These men chose to serve a country that often failed to recognize their full humanity, believing in the promise of America, even when that promise seemed far from fulfillment. Their commitment to defending the rights of all citizens, even in the face of hostility and discrimination, embodies the highest ideals of patriotism and service. The suppression of this history also reveals much about the politics of reconciliation in post-Civil War America. The decision to downplay the role of black soldiers in combating domestic terrorism was part of a broader effort to smooth over the deep divisions left by the war. This reconciliation often came at the expense of black Americans, sacrificing their rights and safety for the sake of national unity. Bringing the legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers back into the light is a step towards a more honest and inclusive understanding of American history. It challenges us to reckon with the complexities of our past, to acknowledge both the progress we've made and the work that remains to be done. By recognizing the full scope of their service, we honor not just their military achievements, but their unwavering commitment to the principles of freedom and equality. The story of the Buffalo Soldiers' fight against the KKK and other white supremacist groups is more than just a forgotten chapter of history. It's a powerful reminder of the ongoing struggle for justice and equality in America. These brave men didn't just fight wars abroad, they fought for freedom on American soil, often at great personal risk. Their resistance to domestic terrorism, though systematically erased from the national story, remains a testament to courage, perseverance, and the enduring hope for a more just society. As we uncover and share these stories, we take important steps towards a more complete and honest understanding of our shared history. Each revelation, each act of remembering brings us closer to recognizing the full complexity of America's past and the diverse heroes who shaped it. The legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths, to question established narratives, and to strive for a future where all contributions to our national story are recognized and honored. Did you know that by learning about and sharing these forgotten battles, we can help bring the legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers back into the light, one step at a time?